set of tyres, it won't be too damaging, but if it's more than that, put our fingers crossed for all the Ford fans out there. Johnson, pit lane with the clock's on him.
Alan Grice is on the spot. Alan Grice, you there?
Well, Alan is, but I'd say he's back behind the action here because the Shell team need a little room to move here.
A word from the pit lane is that there was some steering damage. They're putting new tyres onto the car. There's too many mechanics climbing under the vehicle itself.
Dick knows. He's off.
So just over 30 seconds that stop. And very costly for Johnson and the Ford boys. He rejoins in 19th position. So everything falling Holden's way at the moment as we follow the man who leads this race, 1.5 seconds up on Larry Perkins at this stage, and consistently clocking times in the high 15s.
Race leader Mark Scaife out of Caltech's chase. That gap opening up back to Larry Perkins. Alan Grice was an orderly pit stop, but they had to look for some damage underneath the front.
No, I think it was a clip on the front right that didn't go quite on. That's the retainer that goes on after the wheel nut. It was just a change of tyres because of the spin, but also it's interesting to note that there's two Falcons already have spun, both with locking their rear brakes up. I think maybe that's the reason they're doing that is they're trying to rest their front brakes, run a lot of rear brake while they've got a lot of fuel on board. By the same token, they've slipped back to 19, so maybe the pace is a little harder than they thought.
Could be, because Mark Scaife at this stage, Alan, is setting a blisterer.
Yes, he certainly is, and he'll pull them out. They've got no option but to run. There's only one way to win this race, and that's be in the group. If you fall off the group, it's all over.
Alan, do you think these lap times are realistic at the moment?
Yes, I'm surprised the way they've fallen back. Dick's fastest lap, the last lap, I'm sorry, that he came before he did have the spin was a 19.3. Now, they certainly didn't expect to get out that far. By the same token, he's being held up by the car in front of him, the 16 car. So the pace certainly appears to be coming off, and Longhurst is still hanging on the end of the group. He's looking pretty good at the moment.
He sure is. Thanks, Alan, for that. As we see Neil Crompton in the GIO car coming up behind Wayne Gardner. Gardner in 5th, Crompton in 6th. The exit to BP Cutting. And Alan made a very interesting point there about the Falcons trying to ease up a bit on the front brake, because Seaton's thing was just way out of the blue.
Yeah, and the harder you push the brake pedal, the worse it gets when you're in that situation. But this is the aerodynamic advantage the Commodores have. They can run more rearward brake bias, which takes the strain off the front brakes and reduces their brake pad wear. I don't think the Falcons can match that for downforce, so obviously they can't run as much rearward brake. So that is another disadvantage for the Fords at Mount Panorama today.
2.2625 is the gap from our race leader Mark Scaife back to Larry Perkins. 2.2. 11 seconds then back to Thomas Mazera. Paul Radicic is next in 4th place. Wayne Gardner runs in 5th. Neil Crompton in 6th. Peter Brock in 7th. Brabham Olison, the second of the Winfield cars, in 8th spot. And Glenn Seaton now up to 9th. And the Quick Stores, the second of the Peter Brock cars, 55. Steve Harrington and Troy Dunstan now moves up into the top 10.
So Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards.
Let's check out for you now on the Caltex race score, just confirmation of those placings. Scaife and Richards lead on lap 12. There's the split time back to second, 2.26. Then Mazera and Percy in 3rd spot. Paul Radicic runs 4th on the road at the moment. Wayne Gardner is 5th. 6th spot, Neil Crompton, the GIO Australia Commodore. Then Peter Brock and the Mobil 1 Commodore in 7th, 8th. Number 2, Brabham and Olofsson, 9th. Is, of course, Glenn Seaton, and 10th is Troy Dunstan. Back at Mount Panorama, just a moment. To the Tooheys 1000, the 93 edition. We're working lap 14 of 161. We're 33 minutes into the great race, and Mark Scaife continues to lead, about to put a lap on the Donaher Commodore as he makes the run down to Forest Elbow. Dick Johnson, we join. It's courtesy of Dunlop Race Camp. Well, I guess it's a bit of catch-up, Dick.
It looks like at this point, Mike, I tell you.
What happened, son?
Oh, Gardner's left rear tyre looks like it was going off. He's obviously tried to run a softer compound on the left-hand side, and it's out to lunch, I tell you. And he was all over the place over the top of the mountain and holding me up, and I thought, oh, well, I'll have a go. And you'd think it was a sprint race. Well, I suppose it is. It's only 1,000k long, Mike, eh?
It is, but you were fortunate to be able to get out of that, get into the pits quickly. Is the car quite okay?
Well, the steering's a little bit off to the right, which is not where it should be. So I suppose we'll just have to live with it. It may improve the handling, you never know, Mike.
Well, you've come back from further than this.
I sure have, and I tell you what, I wouldn't mind doing it today either.
I'll tell you what, your other car, the 18 car, doing very well. Paul Radisich up to 4th spot. That must please you.
It certainly does. Paul's been going very well all week. The whole team's been doing a great job. It's just a matter of, I suppose, on the day, everything's got to come together for you.
Yeah, that early pace was quite electric with Scaife and Perkins, but that's come off a bit now.
Well, I hope they just keep coming back to me, Mike.
I'm sure they will. Have a good day.
I will, thank you.
Dickie Johnson carrying out Dunlop race cam.
And in 17th position after that little mishap we saw. Now here's Neil Crompton having a go at Gardner as they come through Hell Corner and onto Mountain Straight. Peter Brock lurking right in behind the pair. Crompton's got him.
That was a good move. And keep in mind, Neil Crompton yesterday had a problem in qualifying. He had to start out at 10 this morning. He was very quick to the top of the mountain, but dropped some oil on his warm-up lap yesterday and then spun actually in his own oil 1 lap later. But this car was almost bulletproof at Sandown during the running of the 500 there. He came from 16th at one stage to lead the race.
It's beautifully prepared, beautifully built car. Great team structure, and we're certainly expecting a lot from this car later on in the day.
He's in 5th place now. Neil Crompton relegating Wayne Gardner to 6th position. Peter Brock 05 is in 7th, followed by the 2nd of the Winfield Commodores, driven by
David Brabham.
David Brabham. Yeah.
So Crompton leads this group across the top of the mountain. Wayne Gardner falling back into the hands of so perfect Peter. Rocky just giving it a little tuck there on the inside. I must admit, Dick said about Wayne's tyre, but at the same time, on the replay, it almost looked like Dick was in more strife than Wayne.
I think, to be fair, Dick was definitely pushing his nose in where it wasn't wanted. It'd be fair to say, from our position, and we had a better look at it than Dick. He had the line and was in a position to shut the gate. It was a reasonable action on Wayne's part.
And not only that, but Wayne did a hell of a job. There's Bev Brock. Bev, of course, plays a leading role with the team every time they come to Bathurst. She's there, overseeing the scoring and the timing for Peter Brock's crew. As they come down Conrod Straight, watch this for a right-hand kick into Caltex. Still accelerating and now down through the gears and hard on the brakes through here. The Crompton car just some puff of smoke off the tyre there. So Gardner now falling back into the hands of Brocky. 2-litre car off to the left. They'll gather him in before the turn. So it's getting close here.
I think Bev also advises Peter on tyre selection too, doesn't she? According to the commercials.
Win Bathurst, she says.
So Crompton's got the lights on now. This spectacular on the brakes. That big flame leaps out of the exhaust. But it is going to be a drama for these guys picking their way through the slower traffic. They've talked about it all week. And as we've seen this morning, look at Peter Brock. He's right on Gardner's hammer here. Drag race between the two Chevys. Gardner's got to overtake this slower car. He'll move over to the right a little bit. But Brock's done this race so many times before. To win it 9 times, you know how to drive it the right way. And he won't be stressing this car too hard.
It looks like Dickie Johnson was right. It would appear that Gardner has no problem with the car. It's on song. He's plenty strong up the mountain and down the mountain, but he's a bit wobbly across the top. I imagine they're electing to run this set of tyres up to that first pit stop. It would be far too dangerous, far too costly to come in now and change tyres. He'll suffer those, I imagine, until they've done the 25+ laps.
Here he is, Peter Brock at the wheel of 05. Mr. Cool. And we take race cam once again. This is looking back at Brock out of Wayne Gardner's car. And as you can see, Brock is following the footsteps of Dick Johnson all over the back of Gardner's car across the top of the hill. And it's surprising they really catch him across this top section. Right on his hammer as they come out of Hardy's Dipper on their way down toward Forest Elbow once again. And Gardner with Crompton just in front of him. Crompton slowly opening up the gap as they go across the twisty parts of the circuit. So give it its head, 7,500 RPM, bang, up another gear. Brock's in the tow. Let's see if he can do anything about it as they come in for the incredibly quick right-hander into Caltech's chase. I think he's quite close enough this time around.
Well, the dilemma is that Gardner's car has got a bit too much grunt for Peter Brock, and the only chance Brocky's got of nailing him...
Oh, dear, dear.
There's that smaller car problem again. We're going to see a lot of that today, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why one gets away up the hill. So the only chance Peter's got is across the mountain, and you've got to put your nose in there. Look at this.
Look at this. David Brabham comes down the outside of Brock. He's been lurking in his mirrors all the morning.
And Brock's trying to get on with Gardner at the same time and see if he can get by. Brock running in 7th. And right behind him, the number 2 car with David Brabham on the inside. Mobile 1 race cam shows you the move. Brabham gets through there. Brocky up the inside again. Now watch this for power.
Drag race once again. Chevy power, 550 going to the rear wheels up here. Brocky tucks in for the draft.
Discretion being the better part of valor, I think.
This Winfield car's got a bit of mumbo in a straight line. Brock's car's no slug, but he couldn't match him street for street there to swing up the hill once again.
Young Brabham's doing a fabulous job in this car.
For a bloke who's never been here before.
No, just bringing it up through the field.
He's never been to Bathurst before, but he's a guy with a pretty good pedigree so far in Tintops. Of course, he shared the victory in the 24-hour at Spa in 1991 with Anders Olofsson aboard a Nissan GTR. He also put in a stirring drive at Le Mans this year to win the GT class in the Jaguar 220. So he's a guy with quite a racing pedigree. There's Freddie Gibson, man on top at the moment.
We've had 2 of the front runners have a spin. Johnson is now up to 14th, and Glenn Seaton that we saw, who was running up in about 5th or 6th. Spun dropped out of the top 10, is now back to 9th.
Meanwhile, the gap between Mark Scaife and Larry Perkins continues to expand, 7.4 seconds. So, oh, look at this. This is getting very, very tight. A lot of these aren't so much the 2-litre cars.
That's right.
As much the slower V8s. And they're a big lot of sheet metal to try and squeeze past around here. So, Brock, he's not going to let Brabham go. Tucks in once again. Times at the front, Scaife hovering between high 15s and mid 16s.
I'll tell you what, there's not much Brocky can do about this until they come back to him, because Crompton's got away from him and Brabham is clearly getting away. He has not got as much engine as the rest. I don't care what they say, and he's probably playing a conservative game anyway. But that was very clear. Checking them out for you, 41 minutes, 16 or 17 seconds into the great race. Scaife and Richards lead. It's lap 17, and that gap is now out to 7.49 seconds over Larry Perkins. Thomas Mazzera runs in 3rd spot. Paul Radicic is 4th, and Neil Crompton is 5th in car number 7. Then it's Wayne Gardner in 6th spot over Peter Brock in the Mobile 1 Commodore. Next, the Brabham Olofsson car. Well, that's just changed as they come across the line now. Seaton and Jones are up to 9th spot. Dunstan and Harrington are up to 10th. Back at Mount Panorama Bathurst, the Tui's 1093 edition, lap 18 of 161 at 45 minutes into the great race. We've been monitoring Paul Radicic in car number 18, who's been all over the back of Thomas Mazzera and is just over the top of the mountain, being able to take Mazzera and now move to 3rd. So this is the fast-moving Falcon in the pack today.
Yeah, well, certainly Dickie Johnson's got something to smile about. Radicic has been consistent all week, and he's got this car stable and right up there in the top 5. I think they'd be thrilled with 3rd position at this point of the race after the strength of the Commodores during qualifying.
Enormous confidence in the ability of Ross Stone to put together a Bathurst winning car too. I'm pretty sure this thing's as close to bulletproof as you'll get for a 1,000-kilometre race. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be around at the end of the day.
I think a great day for the Holden Racing team. They've slipped back just a little at the moment, but Thomas Mazzera and